When I come here, my only goal is to desperately help people who are in need. I see that as part of my job, and I like a tough job. That sounds good to me, but I can't do it by myself. Prince William went to St. Mary's Church in Norfolk on a quiet Sunday morning to get away from the attention of the public for a while. What began as a quiet trip to think would soon turn into a conversation with a young girl whose words would move him in ways he could never have imagined. On a lovely Sunday morning in Norfolk, St. Mary's Church sat quietly under clear blue skies. Vines had grown up over its old stone walls. Inside, the cool air smelled faintly of apple wood, incense, and the fresh flowers that were placed next to the altar as a small but thoughtful act by the parishioners. Groups of people came in one by one. The sound of coats being taken off and hymnals being opened mixed with their soft greets and footsteps. As people sat down, the wooden seats made a soft rattling sound. Sunlight came in through the etched glass windows and hit the stone floor in bright shades of red, blue, and green. This gave the room a calm, energizing glow. Crown Prince William was one of the worshippers. He wasn't trying to stand out, but it was impossible to miss him. Why? Check back to find out. He was dressed in a blue suit that made him look royal. He had a quiet respect about him. People didn't think of him as a royal because of his easy, friendly smile. Instead, they saw him as just another person looking for a relationship. He said hello to a few people in the area and was serious in what he said. Then, he picked a place near the back of the church with ease, finding the right mix between being open and private. There was no public event going on here. There were not any reporters or cameras there. It was important for Prince William to get away from the stresses of royal life and find some peace. He saw this church as more than just an old building, one of the few places he could get away from the stress of his job and titles, even if only for a short time. But that morning, there was a stillness in the air that couldn't be ignored. It was as if the church itself knew something important was about to happen. As the familiar hymn played on the organ and filled the church with its soulful sounds, Prince William noticed something out of the ordinary. A small person was sitting in the middle of the tall, dark seats near the altar. She was easy to miss at first look. She was very small. The church was so big that her small frame was almost lost in it. There was a soft light coming in through the stained glass windows that made her look beautiful. The girl, who was probably no more than 5 years old, had a wreath of curly brown hair that fell over her shoulders. She sat by herself on the edge of the front pew. Her feet were too short to reach the floor, so they moved back and forth slowly. What a sweet, innocent picture of childhood, but something about it didn't quite fit. He had no idea that what was about to happen would make his life different. William first thought she might be waiting for her folks. They must be coming soon. But as the time went on, no one showed up. The girl didn't seem to be scared at all. She sat quietly among the adults who were all lost in prayer and thought. She looked at a worn-out picture book with both hands. As she slowly turned the pages, her little fingers carefully traced the edges as if it were a very important mark. She would look up at the etched glass windows every once in a while. Her big eyes would follow the light patterns as they moved across the stone floor. It looked like she saw something amazing in the way the colors changed the way she watched. William wasn't just interested in the fact that she was by herself. It was how calm and sure of herself she seemed. She was so still and felt like she belonged, which made her look much older than she was. The big room and being by herself didn't worry her. She looked totally at ease instead, like she had her own quiet reason for being there. William became more interested as he watched for a longer time. Why did she come here by herself? Was she missing, or was she here for a more important reason? He kept thinking about these things, but he didn't say anything. He just sat there and watched. As people left the church after the service, the sound of coats rustling and low whispers filled the air. The girl, however, did not move. She hadn't taken her eyes off the picture book she was holding. She didn't seem to be affected by what was going on around her. Like there wasn't any other world out there, William also didn't move. Sitting there, he kept his eyes on her. The church was empty, which made her stand out even more. The prince was very scared when he saw her sitting there by herself with no sign of her parents or anyone coming to help her. With that, William got up from his place and walked over to the girl. He took quiet, slow steps. Each one feels good on the cool stone floor. He moved slowly because he didn't want to scare her. Being close, he knelt down to her level so he wouldn't look too big or intimidating. His voice was soft and friendly as he said, "Hello there." He smiled at her in a way that made everyone feel safe, even a little kid sitting alone in a big church. "What's your name?" The girl slowly looked up and his big green eyes met hers. Her face showed a moment of surprise, as if she hadn't thought anyone would notice her. But then, just as quickly, her eyes became less intense and her interest in the subject was clear. She wasn't scared, she just looked like she wasn't sure what to say. She spoke after a short pause. It was a soft but steady voice. The tone of her voice seemed unusually calm for someone so small. Like even though she was only a child, she seemed to think about what she said deeply. William stood there hunched over, his tone soft and his smile steady. He wanted to give her time and not rush her. During the times when they weren't talking, he noticed how calm and focused she seemed. Being with her was both interesting and comfortable. I'm Rosie, she answered gently but firmly, as if proud of her name. Rosie. William smiled and spoke warmly. Nice name. Are you accompanied? Rosie hesitated, her fingers curled around her book. Her little face was clouded with uncertainty as she glanced at the vacant pews, then back at William. No, she spoke gently, practically whispering. I came alone. Her statement shocked the prince. Why would a toddler attend church alone? Answers will shock you. It was astounding and worrisome. His mind raced as he pondered her words. Nodding caused her locks to dance about her face. Daddy's a soldier, she added, her voice calm as if she'd said it many times. He was brave, but he died. Mommy says he's in heaven, Rosie remarked. William felt a familiar chest aching as she talked. He struggled to grasp how others felt about a parent's loss, especially a father's. He understood the burden of loss that lingers after the sorrow. Princess Diana, his mother, died. It was his life's highlight. It altered his perspective, beliefs, and path. What do you like best about her? I think leadership traits are enough, though time helped. That day's melancholy never left him. It haunted him like a ghost, no matter how much time passed. He had incorporated it into his identity. While listening to Rosie, he noticed something that reminded him of his fight with a loss no child should experience. He was surprised by her strength despite her sadness. Under 5, this youngster had endured the unfathomable. She suffered the same loss he experienced at her age. It didn't weigh her down, unlike him. Instead, she handled her loss with bravery and a composure that defied her age. She coped with her melancholy via prayer and faith. It was thrilling to see this tiny figure bravely face the world. William lingered over her, filled with respect. He wondered how strong someone so small was to keep such anguish in check and stay calm. That's very brave of you, Rosie, he spoke steadily but had a lump in his throat. Why talk to God? Rosie silently touched the borders of her book pages with her little fingers. He had to lean in to hear her next words since they were so subtle. He missed his dad and said he can see me. Rosie's modest inquiry impacted William deeply. He knew how you felt, how it feels to not know if loved ones are alive. Can they observe our daily life? The modest wins and sorrowful days? For years, he wondered if his mother was watching his happiness and anguish from afar. Like Rosie, he wanted his mother to be part of his life after she died. Nobody knew the answer, but everyone has wondered. When Rosie finished, William felt a strong chest pain again. His childhood loneliness and confusion when he lost his grandfather sprang to mind. He remembered the query that had been in his head all along, unspoken but always there. Rosie's eyes showed the same weakness, a subtle need for comfort, connection, and proof that love is never lost. Her sorrow was gentle. The manner she asked questions showed she was serious. The excursion was thrilling. Few are brave enough to ask profound, honest inquiries. Until this child arrived. Her unique technique of finding serenity is courageously speaking out to the Lord. This is difficult for most people. William sensed something deep when she was honest and forceful. He rediscovered long-buried memories and sentiments. She appeared older than her years. Loss affected more than people, William saw. It also altered kids in ways few noticed. Rosie was young, but she had experienced a degree of despair that most people spend their lives trying to endure. She was handling it in an intriguing way. She didn't avoid sadness. It was something she faced with quiet courage that often outweighed the sadness. Looking at her, Williams felt sad for her. His voice was soft and steady. Soft, emotional words. Your dad knows you miss him. Rosie, I think he sees you. Though unseen, he's constantly with you. He regarded her. He thought they had an unsaid connection because they had both been separated and loved. He added, he's always in your heart. He spoke nearly whispered, as if to hold on to the underlying truth of what he said. Williams fished in his pocket for a little silver coin with smooth sides. His precious gift currency was constantly with him. Though small, the coin meant a lot to him. It depicted St. George destroying the dragon, symbolizing bravery, defense, and courage. He wore this for years to remind himself of his obligations, faith, and royal family struggles. Coins were more than metal. He got lucky. He had a quiet companion who gave him strength, especially in trying times. He felt the chilly metal in his hands after taking the coin from his pocket. He stared at Rosie and felt heavy because they had connected. He handed it to her gently. Speaking softly, he said, "This is for you." His voice matched the sincerity. "Every time I see this coin, I recall bravery. It may also remind you that your dad is always watching over you." Rosie's eyes widened. The coin caught her eye as she tentatively extended a little hand. She held it gently as her fingers curled. She looked up to him despite her youth. as if she recognized its weight. Gratitude filled her big hazel eyes. Before she comprehended it, the signal appeared to understand her. That instant, something more than sound altered between them. Rosie smiled after being sad and contemplative minutes earlier. It was disappearing, a pure, bright smile that lit up the sanctuary. Her anguish eased briefly. Then calm returned, a serene assurance that things will be fine. Her grin could brighten even the darkest corners of the world. She whispered, "I think Dad would appreciate that," gaining confidence. Pure peace flashed in her eyes. Her remarks were peaceful and confident, without doubt or sadness. Other those who have found a new comfort, a means to connect with her father she misses. Her smile was returned by William. A warm warmth spread across his chest. He would never forget that moment, which reminded him of the power of tiny gestures and the human spirit. Their encounters were noticed. Several meeting attendees watched from afar. The modest, sweet encounter between Prince William and Rosie captured it. Air warmth increased over time. Everyone from small children to the elderly is touched by this scene. There was something profound about their simple bond. Not simply a chat, a moment of pure human compassion, bringing grieving children and men who have experienced loss together. William sat with Rosie. She told him about her favorite recollections, tiny moments only a daughter could treasure. How her dad took her to the park, pushed her high on the swings, and sang ridiculous songs to make her laugh even when she was sad. Her simple words conveyed love and nostalgia. She reminded him of how she attempted to make her mother laugh during difficult times, doing small things to provide joy. William listened diligently, his heart weary but full. He was impressed by Rosie's ability to cope and honor her father by continuing his love and joy. William was emotional when they parted. He was forever changed by the incident, reminding him of the healing power of kindness, connection, and being present. After leaving St. Mary's that day, he felt renewed purpose and was reminded of the calm strength of human compassion. The poignant exchange spread fast through the small hamlet as individuals recounted it. Everyone who heard it was touched by her own thoughts on comforting a young girl grieving her father. It wasn't simply royalty seeking out. It was deeply human. The account was told by parishioners of all ages, from longtime members to young families who attended services regularly, each person moved by the future king's unassuming generosity. Rosie and her mother found the day crucial. It was more than meeting a royal. They would always remember that moment of warmth and connection. It reassured them they were not alone in their grief. William's kind comments and the silver coin gave them hope that they may feel supported and connected even without a loved one. The small act of compassion showed them they were part of a larger community that cared for them in their most vulnerable moments. William remembered Rosie's bravery even after leaving St. Mary's. He carried her resilience, a beautiful reminder that even the smallest can be strong. In a world of uncertainty and suffering, Rosie had shown him that there was always hope and light, even in loss. He would draw inspiration from her quiet courage when the world felt heavy. What do you think of Prince William's kind act? Have you seen compassion brighten someone's day? Share in the comments. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories.